So on my previous segment that I did talking about the potential of Sean Payton getting traded to the Arizona Cardinals, could it happen? There was a subscriber who commented under that segment and said that this ain't happening unless Arizona coughs up that fourth overall pick and others. I disagree with that. Yes, the New Orleans Saints won a first round pick in exchange for Sean Payton, but let's be honest. How much leverage do the Saints really have in this situation? Sean Payton, I'm pretty sure, already has his list of teams that he's willing to get traded to. So it's not like Mickey Loomis and the Saints can just trade him to Denver if Sean Payton doesn't want to coach in Denver. If Sean Payton gets traded anywhere, he's going to have a say-so. Mickey Loomis and said team that Sean Payton wants to get traded to, they're going to come together and they're going to discuss a trade package. But if they can't come to terms on a deal for Sean Payton, then for New Orleans, it's kind of a L on their part. Yeah, the other team won't get Sean Payton, but I mean, there's other head coaches out there. Meanwhile, for New Orleans, you're a team right now that needs a quarterback, and you need all the draft compensation that you can get. So therefore, if Sean Payton doesn't get traded, he can just go back into retirement and say, you know what, I'm good. I'll just wait until I'm able to come back and pick and choose whichever team I want to coach for without having to get traded. So for New Orleans, you only have set amount of time that you retain Sean Payton's rights until you end up allowing him to walk away from nothing. And if you're the Arizona Cardinals, here's how you go about this situation. If you're able to hold on to that fourth overall pick, is there really any prospect there who's going to be worth that selection, who can have an immediate impact right away? Because if you're drafting a player in the top 5, you're looking for an elite caliber player at that position and a franchise-changing player there. If Bryce Young is off the board, he goes to Houston, right? That leaves Will Anderson and Jalen Carter on the board. They're probably going to go back-to-back, Seattle, Chicago, however the draft order goes, and however those players go off the board. So at that point, who's next on the board for Arizona to select? There's not really any outstanding cornerbacks who you should draft in the top 5 or either the top 10. There's not really a great pass rusher there who you could take with that fourth overall selection unless Will Anderson is still there, and you're not in the market for a quarterback. So the best thing for Arizona to do with that fourth overall selection, if they're able to hold on to it, or even a top 5 pick, is to trade down, try to acquire more first-round selections, because a lot of the teams are going to be willing to give the Arizona Cardinals a lot of compensation in exchange for potentially that fourth overall selection. You got to remember, Bryce Young is expected to be the first quarterback off the board to Houston, so think about how many teams are going to want to trade up for C.J. Stroud. If the Arizona Cardinals can walk away with 2 or 3 first-round picks, you take one of those first-round selections and you send them in a trade to New Orleans and you get Sean Payton. But under no circumstance should Arizona trade away the 4th overall selection for Sean Payton, because you really don't have to. You go back to that John Gruden trade when he got traded from the Raiders to Tampa Bay. In return, the Raiders got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million in cash from Tampa in exchange for John Gruden. But you got to remember this. When you look back at that trade, Tampa Bay gave up so much because John Gruden at the time was such a hot commodity when it came to the head coaching world. He was coming off a fantastic year that season before he got traded to Tampa Bay. I believe the game they lost in the playoffs was the Tuck Rule game to the Patriots and Tom Brady. He goes to Tampa Bay and wins the Super Bowl his first season there. So, of course, Tampa Bay gets what they wanted in the trade. They got a Super Bowl out of it. You look at Sean Payton, his final season in New Orleans, though, it was a 9-8 season, which definitely wasn't bad considering the circumstances there. He didn't really have a great group of receivers. You had Jameis Winston at quarterback, and then once he went down, you were playing kind of musical chairs at the position. So for the Arizona Cardinals, yes, New Orleans wants a first round selection for Sean Payton, but I don't think you have to give up the 4th overall pick. I think there is a smarter way to go about getting Sean Payton. You trade down, you try to acquire more first round picks. Ideally, you want 3 first round selections, okay? When the 49ers traded up for that selection, the draft, Trey Lance, they gave up a boatload of picks. If you are the Arizona Cardinals, you can get that kind of capital for that 4th overall selection, then try to use one of those picks to send to New Orleans and get Sean Payton. But I don't think the Cardinals have to give up a 4th round pick for Sean Payton. As a matter of fact, I still believe that Sean Payton has the majority of leverage in this situation. If you're New Orleans, you have to be able to get some compensation for Sean Payton before he walks away. Because if that contract ends up running out and he can go to whichever team he wants to, you're really about to let one of the greatest head coaches of all time, a future Hall of Fame coach, walk away and get no compensation in return because you want to play hardball. Can Mickey Loomis and the Saints really play hardball in this situation? I mean, they can. But, I mean, do you really want to allow Sean Payton to walk away without some kind of compensation? So it's like, if the Saints get a 1st round pick, I don't really think they're going to be picky about where they're going to be picking that in the 1st round with that pick. I just think they want a 1st round pick for Sean Payton. But if they can't get that, if you're Arizona, if you're not willing to come off that 4th overall pick, and Sean Payton wants to go to Arizona, if you're Mickey Loomis, you're not going to trade him inside the division to Carolina. Because, I mean, even though Carolina has a lot of great assets, do you really want to face off against Sean Payton? I mean, I doubt that. And then what if Dennis Allen doesn't work? Potentially, maybe next season, if you don't trade away Sean Payton, you still hold the rights to his deal or his contract. You can say, hey, Sean, come back. You get what I'm saying? We still own the rights to your contract. You want to coach, you might as well come and coach us up. And we're in a really good spot to get a quarterback. So I don't really think that New Orleans has as much leverage in this situation that a lot of people think. At the end of the day, they still have to sign off on whichever team Sean Payton wants to go to. But at the same time, they just can't trade him anyway. Sean Payton has the final say where he wants to go, where he wants to coach. And it has to be an ideal situation. All right? If he doesn't want to coach in Denver, they're not going to trade him to Denver. Because guess what? Then he can just say, F it. I'm just going to retire and wait for the deal to expire. So if you're New Orleans, I don't really think they're really in the ideal situation to play hardball for Sean Payton. Let's be honest. New Orleans, they want some draft picks so they can try to get a quarterback. If you're the Saints, I think you should take the best compensation possible. If the market for Sean Payton is a 2nd round pick and you don't get a 1st round pick, are you really willing to let Sean Payton just sit, let his contract run out with you, come back to coaching, and then you get nothing in exchange for him? I think that the Arizona Cardinals don't have to give up the 4th overall pick if they go about this situation smartly and correctly. If there's no player there that blows your mind or any outstanding prospect who you think is a franchise caliber player, then you trade down, get more picks, use one of those picks to trade for Sean Payton. I don't really think New Orleans is in a situation to play hardball. If you get offered the 1st round selection for Sean Payton, you take it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that the Arizona Cardinals have to give up the 4th overall selection for Sean Payton?